Hi, my name is Jamie, and I'm joined today by our payroll extraordinaire, driver payroll specialist, Laura Schrader. Thank you for joining us, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
Appreciate
joining
it.
us. Let's talk all things driver payroll. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's jump right in. So, when it is time, you've completed your delivery to submit your paperwork. How do we go about doing that? Number one, let's talk about the why. Why is it even important for drivers to get their paperwork together and to get it up to your team?
Well, first of all, you want to get paid for what you've done.
Oh, yeah.
And secondly, Chima wants to bill the customer for what you have done.
Chima wants to get paid too?
Yes,
Just
they
like
do.
the driver?
Everybody wants to get paid.
All right, so how do we go about doing that?
So you want to fill out the trip sheet and get all the bill of ladings together, and then you're going to want to scan it in.
All right, let's take a look at that trip sheet. We have an image right here for you. If you think back to the days of faxes, do you guys remember faxes? Yeah, that was a minute ago. Faxes, if you needed to send a fax on a fax machine, what had to be on top? A cover sheet, right? So the trip sheet is like a fax cover sheet. It basically gives us some good summary information to help keep things organized. And there's also a fancy barcode on the corner of it that helps route it to our driver payroll department. So that trip sheet needs to be filled out, and once it's filled out, it gets placed on top of the stack of associated bill lading paperwork.
Correct.
So let's talk about the things that this trip sheet asks for. At the very top, it's going to ask for a total number of pages. How do they get that number?
They want to count all the pages, including the top cover sheet of what you're scanning in.
So there's always at least one
page.
And hopefully two, because there's got to be a bill lading
Hopefully.
too. So there should
Hopefully.
minimally always be 2 pages, sometimes more, depending on how many pages are included in that bill of lading.
Yes, and remember, you want to scan in every piece of bill of lading that you have.
Okay, not just the top copy.
Not just the top copy, not just the bottom copy. You want all the pages.
Okay, so if there's multiple pages, scan them all.
Scan them all.
Good to know. Underneath that, we're asking for the load number. That is the Chima specific order number. It's a 7-digit number, and there's a spot on the trip sheet, 1 space for each digit of that 7-digit number.
Yes.
Next to that, to the right, we have a truck number. That's your assigned truck number, and the trailer associated with that dispatch. The driver name below that, and if it's a team operation, there's a spot for driver number 2. Now there's a grid just below that, and what information are the drivers going to be putting in there?
So on the grid below that, we would like, if you're hauling, picking maybe an empty trailer up and taking that from one city to the next city. So we want that. If you're bobtailing, if you're taking empties, it's okay. Whatever you want. I want trailer numbers, bobtail, from city to city, and then the line underneath it, where you stop the first line at that city, it's going to begin at that city, and then it's just going to go coincide with each other. It's go one point to the next point, one point to the next point. Very simple.
So it's point to point. So bare minimum, if you're picking up a load at the Pacific Washington terminal and you're dropping it off to our Lathrop, California terminal, if that's all you're doing, then that's all it's probably going to show.
Correct.
Right? It'll say on line 1, I went from Pacific Washington to Lathrop, California. This is the associated loaded trailer number, and that would be the line you would put there. However, in a different example, say you actually delivered your previous load across town in Tacoma. And then you went over to Sumner, Washington, Pacific Washington, to pick up that load. You would first want to show that empty maneuver, right? So from Tacoma, Washington to Pacific Washington would have a line of its own.
Correct.
That way you get paid those empty miles. We want to make sure you get credit for your due that pay, and we want to make sure there's accountability for that.
We want to make sure we capture all of those moves.
Absolutely. So in that example, Tacoma, Washington to Pacific Washington, the next line down would show Pacific Washington to Lathrop, California.
Yes.
Very good.
That's correct.
Now there's a section below that talks about cash expenses. What kinds of things would they include there?
Anytime that you get an EFS check for lumpers, or say you for a rework or something like that, anytime you get an EFS check, you need to turn in a receipt for that. So lumpers, reworks, if you want to be reimbursed for anything such as a scale that you had to pay out of pocket for, you want to put that on there. Anything that comes out of your pocket, anything that you're responsible for the money, such as the EFS check, you want to put the receipt on there and turn the receipts in to be reimbursed.
That's fine. So especially with lumpers, we don't have a lot of lumpers in the system. We try to avoid those at all costs for obvious reasons.
do,
Very
but they-
expensive.
yes, they are.
But we cannot reimburse without that receipt. So number one, make sure you're asking for it. If you deliver a lumper unload, you're going to get an EFS check. Make sure you get that receipt. Don't forget to ask for it.
Right.
And then that gets included with this paperwork as you scan it in to make sure you're reimbursed.
And also on the lumper receipts, they do give you a lot of electronic receipts these days, so those will have to be sent in via electronically.
Fantastic. And then to finish it all off at the very bottom of the trip sheet, it asks for the driver's signature and the date. So we'll fill that out and then we'll get ready to scan it in. Now, there are several ways that you can submit your paperwork to your team.
Yes.
And let's highlight a few of them. Number one, there is a TransFlo scanning machine at all of Chima Freightline's terminal driver lounges. So we have one currently here in Pacific, Washington, one in Albany, Oregon, and also one at our driver's lounge in Lathrop, California.
Correct.
Those same types of scanning kiosks are available at the majority of truck stops that you will find yourself at. We have an account with Pilot Flying J. You're going to be stopping there to fuel anyway, so if you need the opportunity to scan some paperwork, check within and you'll be able to get that taken care of there. So that's option one, the scanning kiosk. The other way is to do it with a mobile app, and I'm going to encourage you to consider two ways to do it with those options. Number one, your new Platform Science ELD has the TransFlo Mobile Plus app loaded onto it. If you go into your mini menu, you can find that app icon, jump into there, there's a button to tap to scan documents, use your tablet to take your pictures, type in the order number, it'll give you a confirmation number once you hit scan, and that scanning effort is complete. You can accomplish the same thing if you are much more comfortable using your phone. You can add that same app, TransFlo Mobile Plus, on your cellular phone. You would go to your app store, you would locate TransFlo Mobile Plus. It's an app on either the Google Play Store or on your App Store, depending on the type of phone you have. Search TransFlo Mobile Plus, you'll load it onto your phone. You will need the fleet ID to make sure all the paperwork finds Chima Freightline's payroll team, and that fleet ID is CFAAM. CFAAM. And that's how the paperwork finds us. Once you have that loaded on your phone, it'll ask for some personal information like your driver ID, your email, and your phone number. That way, once you do scan in paperwork, it begins to email copies to you in addition to sending it to DriverPay.
And I would also remember when you're doing that, don't erase your confirmation numbers, save those. So if something happens, we can ask for that confirmation number and we can pull in that paperwork anyways.
So again, to recap, you can scan your paperwork after you've filled out your trip sheet, put all the associated paperwork together with the trip sheet on top, and then you'll prepare to scan it in at one of the kiosks at Chima Freightlines, at a kiosk at one of the truck stops, or using one of the mobile solutions either on the ELD tablet installed in the truck or more conveniently on your mobile phone. Let's look at an example. All right, I'm ready to scan in my paperwork. I've got my bill of ladings over here, all of my associated trip paperwork. I've got my cover sheet, trip sheet right here. It's time to fill this thing out. So let's look at this together, shall we? First, I need to enter total number of pages in batch. I'm going to count up all my associated paperwork, starting with the trip sheet. 1, 2, 3. So my total number of pages will be that, 3. My load number is the Chima specific load number, 502, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pro tip, it's always very helpful to the trip payroll department if you add that same Chima order number on the top of each page of your bill of lading. So we'll do that. They'll appreciate it. Next, it's asking for my truck number and the loaded trailer number associated with the load. My name I'll put right here. And if I had a team driver, I could put them on line 2. Now, let's put where this load started from. I was bobtail at Tacoma, Washington, and came to Pacific, Washington. No detention on that move and no time in and time out because it wasn't related to a customer. Then I grabbed my trailer, H54 110 from Pacific, Washington, and took it to our yard in Lathrop, California. Because it's not a customer stop, I don't necessarily need to put the time in and time out there. I can say that I got there yesterday at noon. So I'll go ahead and put that down, and I was there for half an hour. There's no cash expenses that I need to add to this. So now I just need to sign it and date it. Put this on top, and now we're ready to scan. So here I'm at a TransFlo kiosk. This one happens to be in the driver's lounge of the Pacific Washington terminal. I've got my trip-related paperwork all together with the trip sheet on top. Here's my scanner. What's convenient is the machine is formatted the same anywhere you go. On the main menu screen, it just tells you what you need to do, most commonly F1 to scan documents. It also tells you here that you want to put your paperwork in head first, face up. So that's what I've done right here. So we'll tap F1 and it will start scanning the documents. Once the documents are scanned, you'll see an electronic image of those documents to preview. You can page down to make sure every page was scanned in properly. If you're satisfied, press F1 to confirm. It'll print out a little receipt. Most kiosk stations will have a stapler somewhere nearby. You can staple those pages together and save them for safekeeping. If you're not such a fan of the kiosk scanning opportunity, you can also scan your paperwork using TransFlo software, which is already on your ELD. So let's see how that works. Again, putting your trip sheet on the top of your associated bill lading pages. What you'll want to do is grab your tablet, and in the main menu, the upper left box, you'll tap that and swipe around until you find your TransFlo app for scanning paperwork. Once that's loaded, the main menu will have an option to scan documents. Tap that. You'll have to take it out of the cradle of the truck, but you can tap to take pictures of your associated paperwork, and the tablet turns into a camera where you can take pictures of each page one at a time. It will render the image. Tap next in the upper right-hand corner. It'll allow you to preview it to make sure you're happy with it. To accept it, tap accept in the upper right-hand corner. If you have multiple pages like we do here, we're going to go ahead and tap take picture and take a picture of our next page. We'll repeat that process for each page of our bill of lading, tapping next. And if we're satisfied with page number 2, tap accept in the upper right-hand corner. And we have one more picture to take, making sure all 4 edges of the page are in each picture. Tap next. If you're satisfied with the picture, tap accept. Once all pages have been photographed, tap next in the upper right-hand corner. It will ask for the order number. It will ask for the driver ID, which will auto-populate with your driver code, and will ask for the truck number. Tap next. When you're ready to scan all your pages, tap send all, and a confirmation will appear. It will also send that confirmation number and the scanned packet to the email associated with your driver code. So that wasn't too bad, right?
That was great. Nope, it was super easy.
Yeah, once you get in the habit of doing that, it'll be second nature. So once you've completed delivery or dropped your load at a drop yard or at a terminal, we want to make a priority to get that paperwork scanned in a timely fashion.
Yes.
So let's, Laura, talk next about the work week and what that looks like. What kind of cutoffs do drivers need to be associated with and familiar with?
So our payroll work week is like a regular work week, Sunday through Saturday. So Saturday midnight. So we also want you to scan all of your paperwork in by Saturday midnight as well. So we have time to get it processed, because then you will be paid the following Friday.
So wait, you pay every Friday?
Yes, we do.
Once a week?
Once a week.
At Chima Freight Lines, drivers get paid every Friday?
Yes, they do.
Fantastic.
So it'd be really important for you not to hold on to your paperwork for the full week and scan it all in on Friday or Saturday. We want you to make sure getting into the habit of, as soon as you drop a load, as soon as you deliver a load, within 24 hours, process your paperwork and get it sent off, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Can you imagine a fleet of our size, if every driver hung on to their paperwork until Saturday and scanned it all in, what that would do to your team?
Yeah,
They'd show up on Monday
I
morning
have no words.
with volcanic meltdown
They would. They
minds.
would.
They would
They
just
would melt
melt.
down.
So please scan it as you do it. Don't batch them and scan them all at the end of the week and then cause her folks to have baby heart attacks and
Right.
ulcers.
Also, one load, one trip sheet, one load. Do not send multiple loads in together because they all get rolled in together and sometimes they're not in the right order, and it takes up a lot of extra time to figure out where that load goes.
Right on. So and again, we have a graphic for you. Right here it shows the actual work week. Sunday morning, and the cutoff is Saturday night, midnight. Make sure everything is scanned in prior to that cutoff, in advance of that cutoff preferably. And then it will pay out on the following Friday check. Very good. Very, very good. Yes. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about some additional miscellaneous pay items that maybe drivers aren't entirely aware of. Let's first talk about detention. So what is Chima Freight Line's detention policy? When does detention kick in?
So detention kicks in after the first hour that you've been waiting to either load or unload, from your appointment time.
Okay.
So if you arrive 3 hours early, it's still going to start at your appointment time.
Okay.
And
well, early is great. We love early.
We love early.
But we can't charge the customers detention nor pay detention until the obligation to the customer
has been met.
Initiated. Correct. So detention starts after 1 hour. We currently pay at $20 an hour for detention, and that gets rounded to the nearest quarter hour.
Correct.
So even if it's a part of an hour, we'll round it up.
Round it up.
To the nearest quarter hour. It is capped at 7.5 hours per stop, so just be aware of that. So that's the detention.
And it's very important that you put your in and out times and check the box on your trip sheet that's showing the detention. It is also very important that you put those same in and out times on your bill of lading so the billers can actually bill for it, and Chima can be paid for it as well.
Absolutely. And so on that trip sheet that we talked about earlier, there are in and out times for the customer stops.
Correct.
And that's why that's important to have visibility of. So that's detention. Layover and breakdown are the next two miscellaneous pay items we'd like to bring up. Layover currently pays at how much?
$150.
And that is for a 24-hour period of time. So if you're laid over, there's no freight. We've sent you in an area, you've delivered there, and for whatever reason, the next available load out is until over 24 hours later. Oh my, does not happen out here at Chima Freight Lines. We'd much rather send you a couple 100 miles to the next nearest load as opposed to park you and sit you for a day. But that's there to take care of you. So if you are laid over, it's intentional that the next load they're going to plan you on is a 24-hour delay. They'll pay you $150 for that wait time.
Takes a little sting out of it.
It does. Breakdown also pays $150 if you're broke down for more than a 24-hour period of time.
Yes.
Breakdown also would cover the cost of a hotel if the truck is not available to lodge in.
Correct.
So $150 plus or minus a hotel depending on the situation. So again, a couple of ways to take care of the driver when there's freight shortages or when the equipment is in the shop. Now, let's talk about some miscellaneous pay items. Additional pickups, multi-stop loads. Chima Freight Lines pretty generously pays, in addition to the routing to get from shipper to the next shipper or delivery to the delivery, you get paid the route line miles always.
Always.
But if you have multiple pickups or multiple
drops.
That's correct. How much is it?
$50 extra.
$50
After the first one.
Yes, after the first and before the last.
Before the last,
Right. So
right?
there's always the first and the last, but everything in between first and last pays $50 a pop. So, for example, if I've got a 2 pick load and a 2 delivery load, which we don't do very much on.
No.
Let's be honest. Most of our loads are one pickup and one delivery.
Yes.
But let's use that example. The first one, there's always the first one that's not an additional stop off. That second one pays $50.
$50.
The first delivery pays $50, and then the final delivery, there's nothing extra other than the routing.
Correct.
So you got 100 extra bucks plus the routed miles to get to those stops because it's a multi-stop deal.
And it is automatic thing. You don't have to worry about putting it on your paperwork or anything like that. It is an automatic thing.
Would you say it's automatic for the people?
I would say it's automatic for the people.
That's probably something I would say. And then the last miscellaneous item pay I would like to mention is short haul pay.
Short haul.
And one thing I really like about our system is the drivers really don't have to do much to flag these things.
Nope.
They are identified, they're approved within, and they are just paid out.
Yes.
But we do have short haul pay. There are times when dispatch planning might be desperate to cover some of those shorter loads, whether it's a pickup at a nearby customer to drop to a yard, or maybe even more likely, a delivery from a yard that goes to a nearby customer. Yes, we normally have locals utilized for that kind of work. I more commonly see this happen around the holidays.
Yes.
So everybody wants to go home for Christmas or whatever special holiday they've got time off for. When they come back, everybody's dropped loads in the yard, and now we've got
Gotta
all
get
these loaded
busy.
trailers and no empties and all these customers that want their freight. And so sometimes we need a little bit of surge help to clean up the yard and to free up some equipment. And so when you are asked to cover a short haul load, we've organized that into two short haul pay buckets. One is a mileage band from 1 to 50 miles.
Correct.
If the loaded miles
Correct.
are between 1 and 50 miles, you get the mileage pay, of course.
Yes.
And
An extra $45.
an extra $45. And if it is between 51 and 100 miles, you get the loaded miles plus.
Plus an extra 35 miles.
Right. So it's a little
$35,
bonus,
I'm
short
sorry.
haul load bonus to help ease the blow.
Yes.
And a way of saying thank you for your time and recognizing your hours.
And that is also an automatic thing. So
the
that's
people.
great.
Automatic for the people. People are going to start saying that, Laura.
Automatic for the people.
Yep. All right, a couple other pro tips for Chima drivers. If you are drop delivering the load, please make sure that you take a picture of the bill of lading before you leave that paperwork behind.
Yes.
Don't forget, we want to leave that paperwork for that consignee, but if you're giving up all the goods,
Yeah.
you won't have it for the necessary scanning.
The
So-
scanning and the process for payroll. We need that picture so we can make sure to process that load for pay.
Yep, so use
Very
that ELD
important.
tablet, use the scanning app on there to get your pictures. You can use your phone if you prefer, but that tablet has that software loaded onto it for that purpose. So don't forget to get that picture before you leave the paperwork with the drop trailer.
If you're ever in question, just take a picture.
That's right. And for loads that aren't delivering by you, instead they're going to be relayed to a drop yard or a Chima terminal location. You really only need to scan in the trip sheet to show the
Correct.
work that you've done.
Yes.
But just make sure that paperwork gets left in that bill tube or that bill box, depending on what kind of trailer you have.
Correct.
So you can set up that next driver. Well,
Or
fantastic.
sets.
This has been fun. Let's do this again sometime,
Okay,
Laura.
we will.
If you have questions for driver payroll, you want to talk to Laura or one of her amazing teammates,
Yes.
call our main line. It is right here on the bottom of the screen. It is 253-733-5718. Once you get through the menu options, you can reach her team directly by entering option
6.
option 6.
Number 6.
Laura,
It's been a pleasure.
thanks.